Weakness is not something that happens to you by accident. Weakness is something you allow, something you permit, something you quietly tolerate every single day until it becomes part of your identity. And most men walk around the world wearing that identity like a badge, pretending they had no choice in the matter, pretending life pinned them down. They don't realize the truth that strength is not genetic. It's not fate. It's not some magical gift handed out to a chosen few. Strength is a decision repeated so many times that it becomes who you are. Listen carefully, because if you understand this part, everything in your life will shift. The difference between a strong man and a weak man is not talent, opportunity, or luck. It's the choice they make the moment they wake up. The moment their alarm rings, the moment discomfort whispers in their ear. A weak man hits snooze. A strong man stands up. A weak man negotiates with his excuses. A strong man executes. A weak man looks for permission. A strong man creates momentum. The same moments, the same choices, just different decisions, and those decisions compound until they form two completely different lives. There's this lie the world has taught you. The lie that weakness is natural, that weakness is okay, that weakness is something you're supposed to accept because nobody's perfect. But I'm telling you now, weakness is not your nature. It's simply the path of least resistance. It's the option you pick when you don't want to confront yourself. And the world loves people who choose weakness because weak people are easy to control, easy to manipulate, easy to discourage, easy to silence. Weak men break. Strong men bend the world around them. And that is why becoming strong is a decision that will change everything. But here's the part most people will never admit to themselves. Strength hurts at first. Strength demands sacrifice, effort, consistency, focus. Strength demands that you do things you don't feel like doing. Weakness, on the other hand, feels good initially. It's comfortable. It's easy. It gives you that warm temporary escape from pressure. But weakness has a cost, and eventually that cost becomes a bill too large to pay. Weakness destroys potential. Weakness destroys confidence. Weakness destroys everything that could have made you extraordinary. The man who understands this becomes dangerous because he realizes he is responsible for the man he becomes. Not his environment, not his upbringing, not the people who doubted him, just him. The strongest men alive are not the ones with the best situations. They are the ones who said, I refuse to be weak. They made a decision, not once, every day, in the moments nobody saw, in the battles nobody praised. Strength is not built in applause. It's built in silence through thousands of small decisions that nobody will ever thank you for. Picture a moment when you feel tired, unmotivated, empty. Most people pause their life at that moment. They surrender to the feeling. They convince themselves tomorrow will be better. But that is exactly where strength is built. When your mind says stop and you say no. When your body wants rest and you give it discipline. When the world gives you an excuse and you turn it into fuel. Those are the reps no gym can give you. Those are the sets that create the warrior version of you. Those are the moments a strong man is born. Every time you choose strength over weakness, you are building evidence. Evidence that you're not the same man you used to be. Evidence that you can trust yourself. Evidence that you can rely on yourself. That evidence compounds into self-respect, and self-respect is the foundation of the warrior mindset. You cannot call yourself disciplined if you keep choosing the easy way. You cannot call yourself focused if you keep following distraction. You cannot call yourself strong if you keep avoiding challenge. Strength is not what you say or what you post or what you dream about. Strength is what you consistently do when nobody is watching, when nobody is applauding, when nobody is motivating you. Weak men are emotional hostages. Strong men are emotional commanders. Weak men react. Strong men decide. Weak men hope. Strong men act. Weak men crumble under pressure. Strong men sharpen themselves with it. And all of this, the entire difference between these two lives, comes down to the choice you make in the smallest, quietest moments. The moments where nobody would blame you for slacking off. The moments where no one would notice if you quit early. That's the moment that defines you because you're not doing it for approval. You're doing it because you decided you will not be weak anymore. Strength is not built by waiting for life to get easier. Strength is built by deciding that no matter how hard life becomes, you will rise to meet it. Weakness waits for perfect conditions. Strength builds despite the conditions. Weakness expects results instantly. Strength endures the process. Weakness blames circumstances. Strength creates outcomes. Every day you wake up, you're presented with the same question. Will you choose to be a man who folds or a man who fights? There is a part of your life no one ever sees, and that part decides everything. People think warriors are built in chaos, in conflict, in the moments where tension rises and the world is watching. But the truth is far more uncomfortable. Warriors are built in silence, in the hours no one claps for you, in the mornings when the world is asleep, in the nights when everyone else has tapped out. This is where the real transformation happens, not in the noise, but in the quiet where your mind speaks the loudest. You want strength, but strength doesn't appear in front of a crowd. Strength appears in those lonely moments when you're faced with yourself. That version of you with no distractions, no performance, no audience, just your thoughts, just your habits, just your internal dialogue. And that's where most men lose, because silence is confronting. Silence forces you to acknowledge what you've avoided. Silence shows you exactly who you are without filters, without excuses, without the carefully crafted story you tell the world. Everyone loves to act strong in public. Everyone loves to say they're committed when someone is watching. But when you're alone and discipline is the only witness, that's when the truth of your character shows itself. Silence exposes the gaps, the cracks, the weaknesses. And the man who cannot face silence can never become a warrior, because a warrior must be brutally honest with himself long before he dominates anything outside of him. People think the grind is the hard part, but the real battle is the silence before the grind begins. The moment you wake up and sit on the edge of your bed. The moment your alarm rings and no one is there to pull you up. The moment you look in the mirror and see the same face you've seen 1,000 times, wondering if today you will rise or repeat. This is where the warrior mindset is forged, not in action, but in the decision that leads to action. In silence, you hear every doubt you've ever carried. You hear every excuse you've ever believed. You hear the voice of your old habits inviting you back into comfort, reminding you of how easy it is to settle. Most men obey that voice. They collapse into the softness of familiarity. They fold because silence revealed a truth they weren't ready to face, that they are not as committed as they pretend to be. But the man who becomes a warrior does something different. He listens to that voice, he feels the temptation, and then he chooses to stand anyway. The mind is louder in silence than anywhere else. Thoughts echo, fears multiply, regrets resurface. But the pain of silence is not your enemy. It is the training ground. Embrace it, and you'll develop a mind sharper than any weapon. Run from it, and you'll always be controlled by emotions you never learned to master. A warrior uses silence the way a blacksmith uses fire. The heat is uncomfortable, but it forges strength no comfort zone can create. In silence, discipline is born. Not the fake discipline people perform online, but the kind that shows up when there's nobody there to reward you. The kind that builds confidence from the inside out. The kind that makes you walk differently, breathe differently, live differently. The kind of discipline that becomes your edge in a world full of men who only act disciplined when someone is watching. Think about the greatest breakthroughs in your life. None of them came from noise. None of them came from applause. They came from quiet decisions you made behind the scenes. Decisions to keep going when you had no energy. Decisions to rise when life tried to bury you. Decisions to make yourself better when no one believed you could. That's what silence gives you. A space where your strength is born not from pressure, but from choice. The world rewards results, but it never sees the silent sacrifices behind them. The early mornings where you drag yourself out of bed. The late nights where you squeeze out one more hour. The moments when your mind is fighting you, telling you to stop, and you push anyway. That unseen battle is where the warrior mindset grows. The noise comes later. The recognition comes later. But the foundation is set in those quiet, gritty moments where the only person holding you accountable is you. Silence is uncomfortable because it removes distractions, and distractions are what keep most men weak. When you remove them, you are forced to confront the truth. And the truth is simple. You are either building yourself or breaking yourself. You are either rising or retreating. You are either growing stronger or feeding the weakness within you. In silence, you cannot hide from that reality. That is why silence is sacred. It purifies intention. it clarifies purpose, it forces honesty. And if you can master yourself in silence, if you can be disciplined, focused, and unwavering, when nobody sees your effort, you become unstoppable in the world of noise. Because you're not motivated by applause, you're motivated by identity. You're not driven by validation, you're driven by standard. And once that standard is set within you, silence becomes your strongest ally, the place you return to every time you need to sharpen your edge, realign your purpose, and remember exactly who you are. Pain is the one experience every human tries to avoid, yet it's the only thing capable of turning you into who you're meant to be. Most men spend their entire lives running from pain as if it's a threat, as if it's something designed to break them. But the truth is far more powerful. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the price, the entry fee, the admission ticket for every level of strength, discipline, confidence, and self-respect you want to achieve. You say you want to transform, you want to become stronger, sharper, more resilient, then understand this transformation cannot exist without pain. People want growth without discomfort. They want success without sacrifice. They want confidence without challenge. They want victory without the wounds that come from fighting for it. But that's not how life works. A warrior mindset is not built when things are easy. A warrior mindset is born in the exact moments you feel the urge to back down, to quit, to retreat into comfort. Pain is the pressure that exposes your weakness, and by exposing it, it gives you the chance to destroy it. Think about every breakthrough you've ever had in your life. Not one of them came from comfort. Growth always begins at the edge of pain. The moments where you're exhausted, frustrated, overwhelmed, doubting yourself, questioning whether you can push any further. That's where the real version of you appears. Not the version that posts motivational quotes or talks about goals, but the version that is willing to suffer for those goals. That version is the strongest part of you, and that part only shows up when everything becomes difficult. Pain has a way of revealing truth. When things go wrong, you learn who you are. When you get knocked down, you discover your spirit. When life squeezes you, your real character pours out. Most men crumble under that pressure because they've built their identity around comfort, distraction, and instant gratification. They've never built the muscle of suffering with purpose. They've never learned how to stand tall when life punches them in the mouth. And so, they break. But the man who embraces pain does not break. He transforms. Pain is the great separator, the dividing line between the average and the exceptional. The average man feels pain and looks for a way out. The exceptional man feels pain and looks for a way through. He understands that pain is not the signal to stop. It's the signal that he's in the right place. It's the signal that he's leveling up. It's the signal that something in him is being forced to evolve. Pain is pressure, and pressure shapes diamonds. Pressure refines steel. Pressure builds men. There's a certain clarity that only pain can give you. When you're comfortable, your mind wanders. You get distracted. Your ambition gets lazy. But when you're in pain, you become present, focused, aware. The noise disappears. Your excuses lose their power. Your emotions fall silent. Pain pulls your attention into the moment and demands discipline. That's why warriors embrace pain, not because they enjoy suffering, but because pain sharpens them in ways comfort never could. Look at every man who ever built something great. A business, a body, a legacy, a reputation. None of them did it pain-free. They all paid a price. They all walked through fire. They all confronted moments of doubt, fear, and exhaustion where quitting looked easier than continuing. What made them different wasn't talent. It wasn't luck. It wasn't resources. What made them different was their relationship with pain. They didn't run from it. They didn't hide from it. They accepted it as part of the journey. They understood that pain is temporary, but what it builds is permanent. Pain can break you or build you depending on what you decide it means. Weak men see pain as punishment. Warriors see pain as training. Weak men see pain as a sign to stop. Warriors see pain as a sign to push harder. Weak men avoid pain to protect their comfort. Warriors seek pain to strengthen their character. Pain is not the problem. Your interpretation of pain is the problem. Change that interpretation, and you unlock a version of yourself you didn't know existed. When you embrace pain, you become dangerous. You become unstoppable, because you're no longer controlled by the fear of suffering. You're no longer limited by discomfort. You're no longer held hostage by your emotions. Most men quit the moment things get hard. But the man who learns to operate under pain, who can stay disciplined, focused, and determined even when everything hurts, becomes a force that life itself struggles to slow down. Pain is the great teacher. It teaches you endurance. It teaches you resilience. It teaches you patience, humility, grit, control, power. It teaches you that you are capable of far more than you ever imagined. But you only learn these lessons when you stop running from pain and start stepping into it. Pain is not the enemy standing in your way. Pain is the key that unlocks the door to the next version of you. Everyone talks about motivation like it's some kind of magical fuel. Like motivation is the secret ingredient that separates success from failure. But the harsh truth is this: motivation is the most unreliable energy source you could ever depend on. Motivation comes and goes like weather. It changes with your mood, your sleep, your environment, your emotions. One bad day, one moment of doubt, one wave of laziness, and motivation disappears. And if the only time you take action is when you feel motivated, you will live a life of inconsistency. And inconsistency is the silent killer of potential. What truly separates winners from everyone else isn't motivation, it's discipline. Discipline is the force that shows up when motivation is gone. Discipline is the voice inside you that refuses to negotiate. Discipline is the engine that moves you forward whether you feel like it or not. Motivation is excitement. Discipline is identity. Anyone can feel motivated for 10 minutes. A disciplined man executes for years. Think about the moments in your life where you promised yourself you would change. Moments where you said you'd start tomorrow. You were motivated then. You felt energized, inspired, ready. But the next day came and the feeling faded. Something distracted you, something tired you, something overwhelmed you, and that spark you felt the night before vanished. That's the weakness of motivation. It cannot withstand life's resistance. It collapses the moment reality pushes back. Discipline, on the other hand, is immune to mood. It doesn't ask how you feel. It doesn't wait for the right moment. Discipline is a decision that repeats itself until it becomes a part of your DNA. When you're disciplined, you don't do something because you want to. You do it because it must be done. Discipline is the difference between promising yourself a new life and actually building one. Most men treat discipline like a punishment. They see discipline as restriction, as sacrifice, as something that takes away their comfort. But a warrior sees discipline differently. A warrior understands that discipline is freedom. Freedom from weakness, freedom from regret, freedom from the chaos that comes from an undisciplined lifestyle. Discipline is the structure that allows you to grow, to sharpen yourself, to rise on command. There are days when everything inside you will scream to take the easy path. Days when the bed feels warm, the world feels heavy, your energy feels low. Days when motivation is completely gone. This is the exact moment where warriors are made, because the man who moves forward on those days is unstoppable. The man who trains when tired, executes when bored, and stays consistent when the world distracts him becomes a weapon. He becomes a threat to mediocrity. He becomes a man whose results cannot be denied. Motivation creates hope, but discipline creates transformation. There is a world of difference between a man who hopes to change and a man who forces change through action. The world respects the latter. The world follows the latter. The world fears the latter, because a disciplined man cannot be manipulated by laziness, emotions, or weakness. Motivation can be killed by one bad mood. Discipline survives everything. Most people waste years waiting for motivation. They wait for inspiration to magically strike them. They wait for the right time. They wait to feel ready. But warriors don't wait. Warriors understand that readiness is a myth. Action creates readiness. Discipline creates momentum. You don't need to feel good to start. You need to start to feel good. You don't build discipline by thinking about it. You build it by keeping promises to yourself, even when it hurts. Every time you act without motivation, you gain power. You build a mind that respects itself. You build a reputation within your own soul. You begin to trust yourself, and that trust becomes the core of your strength. Weak men make promises and break them. Strong men make commitments and honor them, and that difference determines everything about their future. Think about how many dreams die because someone depended on motivation. How many goals fade because someone waited to feel like working. How many men could have changed their entire life if they understood that discipline is not the enemy, it's the path. The path through boredom, through discomfort, through doubt, through resistance, the path that leads to mastery. Discipline is a daily battle with the part of you that wants comfort. But if you win that battle consistently, even by a small amount, your entire identity changes. You become the kind of man who follows through, the kind of man who doesn't break under pressure, the kind of man whose actions speak louder than his excuses. You begin to create a life built on structure, not chaos, on intention, not impulse, on power, not weakness. Motivation can start the journey, but only discipline can finish it. Motivation can ignite the fire, but only discipline can keep it burning when the wind tries to blow it out. Anyone can be motivated for a moment. The warrior is disciplined for a lifetime. Your mind is the battlefield where every victory is earned and every defeat begins. Most men spend their lives trying to control everything around them: jobs, relationships, opportunities, circumstances, yet they never learn to control the one thing that decides all of it: their mind. And here is the truth that many avoid because it terrifies them. If you don't control your mind will control you. And a mind left unchecked is the most dangerous enemy you'll ever face. Your mind can talk you out of greatness long before life ever tests you. It can convince you to quit before you've even started. It can create fear where there is no danger, doubt where there is potential, problems where there are opportunities. If your mind is weak, the world doesn't even need to defeat you, you'll defeat yourself. That's why mastering your mind is the foundation of the warrior mindset. Not a suggestion, not an option, a requirement. Think about how quickly your thoughts can shift your entire mood. One negative thought can ruin your energy. One fear can stop your progress. One insecurity can pull you back into old habits. Your external life is just a reflection of your internal state. A chaotic mind creates a chaotic life. A disciplined mind builds a disciplined life. And the man who learns to command his thoughts, instead of obeying them, becomes the kind of man who can shape his world rather than be shaped by it. Most people live on autopilot. They wake up, and before they even step out of bed, their mind bombards them with worry, doubts, distractions, and negativity. They don't choose their thoughts choose them. And they follow those thoughts without question. That is why so many men feel trapped. Not because their life is impossible to change, but because their mind has convinced them that change is impossible. A weak mind creates invisible chains. A warrior knows he must break those chains from the inside out. He knows that discipline starts with mental direction. Every action comes from a thought. Every success begins with a decision. Every transformation starts in the mind long before it happens in reality. You cannot expect your body to be strong if your thoughts are weak. You cannot expect your habits to change if your mindset stays the same. The warrior understands that his greatest battle is not with the world, it's with the voice in his own head. And that voice can be ruthless. It will tempt you to procrastinate. It will remind you of your failures. It will whisper that you're tired, that you deserve to rest, that you're not ready, that you're not good enough, that the goal is too big. If you listen to that voice long enough, it becomes truth. But truth is not what your mind tells you. Truth is what you train your mind to believe. Warriors don't silence the voice, they retrain it. They reshape it. They teach it obedience. Your mind is like an untrained animal. Left to itself, it will run wild. It will chase distractions. It will panic. It will resist discomfort. It will sabotage your progress. But once trained, once disciplined, once brought under control, it becomes the most powerful weapon you possess. A trained mind is calm under pressure, focused under stress, unmoved by emotion, unshaken by fear. That's what makes a warrior dangerous, not his strength, but his clarity. Look at your life for a moment. How many goals have you abandoned because your mind talked you out of the work? How many opportunities have you missed because your thoughts convinced you to hesitate? How many times have you chosen comfort because your mind exaggerated the difficulty ahead? You can't blame the world for that. That was your mind steering your life. And if your mind keeps steering, you will always repeat the same patterns, the same mistakes, the same limitations. A warrior steps in and takes control. He decides what thoughts deserve attention and what thoughts must be ignored. He recognizes that feelings are not commands. Thoughts are not truths. Emotions are not leaders. He becomes the commander of his internal world. And when you can control your internal world, the external world loses its power to intimidate you. A man with a weak mind gets thrown off by small problems. A man with a trained mind stands firm even when everything collapses around him, because he doesn't rely on motivation or luck or emotion. He relies on his ability to direct his thoughts toward action and purpose. That is real power. Control through clarity, direction through discipline. When you master your mind, you no longer fear challenge, you no longer fear failure, you no longer fear pain. You see obstacles as tests, emotions as signals, and thoughts as tools. You stop reacting and start deciding. You stop drifting and start leading. And every day you strengthen that control, you sharpen the weapon inside you. Because the strongest man is not the one who conquers others. The strongest man is the one who conquers himself. There comes a point in every man's life where he must confront the truth that the greatest enemy he will ever face is not the world, not circumstances, not other people. It is the older version of himself. The version built on excuses. The version shaped by fear. The version addicted to comfort. The version that chooses the easy path every time life gets difficult. And here's the part most men never admit: that old version feels safe, familiar, predictable. Even when it's destroying you, it feels easier to keep living as him than to kill him off and become someone new. But if you want to rise, if you want to build a mindset that cannot be shaken, you must develop a ruthless mentality toward your old habits, your old patterns, your old weaknesses. You cannot carry your old self into your future and expect anything to change. The man who wants to transform must be willing to wage war against the parts of himself that refuse to evolve. You cannot show mercy to the behaviors that have been holding you back for years. Every day you wake up, you are walking alongside two versions of yourself. One is the man you want to be: focused, disciplined, relentless, driven. The other is the man you've been easily distracted, easily discouraged, easily tempted by the comfort that keeps you stagnant. And every decision you make is a vote for one of those versions. The tragic part is that most men keep choosing the second one because it feels easier. It feels normal. It feels like home. But the only reason it feels that way is because they've lived with weakness for so long that they've mistaken it for identity. You have to understand something powerful. The version of you trapped in bad habits, in procrastination, in fear, in self-doubt, that version has no intention of leaving quietly. It will fight you. It will negotiate with you. It will whisper that you're tired, that you've earned a break, that today is not the day. It will pull you back toward the life you're trying to escape. And unless you develop a mindset of zero tolerance, that old self will win. It has years of practice beating you. A warrior doesn't negotiate with weakness. He eliminates it. He recognizes that his old self is not a friend, not a comfort, not a harmless companion. It is the anchor that keeps him chained to mediocrity. It is the quiet killer of ambition. It is the voice that convinces him to shrink instead of expand. And once you see your old habits for what they truly are, you stop treating them gently. You stop preserving them. You stop making excuses for them. You begin to cut them off with precision. And make no mistake, cutting off your old self is painful. It feels like loss. It feels like discomfort. It feels like stepping into a world where nothing is familiar anymore. That's why most men never change. They cannot handle the discomfort of leaving behind the identity they've worn for years. But a warrior understands that discomfort is temporary and weakness is permanent if it is not confronted. So he chooses discomfort. He chooses the harder path. He chooses to become a man his old self could never stand beside. Your old self will try to survive every time you grow. When you wake up early, it will try to pull you back under the blankets. When you choose discipline, it will try to remind you of how easy the old lifestyle was. When you start improving, it will try to convince you that you're moving too fast, pushing too hard, wanting too much. But you must be relentless. You must recognize that these are not innocent thoughts. They are the strategies of a weaker version of you fighting for its life. The transformation you want cannot happen if you keep protecting the parts of yourself that created your problems in the first place. You cannot level up while clinging to behaviors that belong to the lowest version of you. The man you're becoming requires new habits, new standards, new levels of discipline. And with every step forward, you must step away from the patterns that kept you small. This is what it means to have no mercy. not toward others, toward your former self. A man who has no mercy on himself becomes unstoppable because he refuses to repeat old cycles. He refuses to return to old excuses. He refuses to let yesterday's version of him dictate who he can become tomorrow. Most men relapse into weakness because they keep forgiving habits that should have been buried long ago. They keep giving second chances to the same excuses that ruined their progress. They keep allowing their old self to show up in moments where discipline is needed most. But when you decide that there is no going back, when you decide your past behaviors have no place in your future, something inside you shifts. You stop hesitating. You stop negotiating. You stop doubting. Your identity begins to change because you're no longer trying to improve. You're trying to transform. And transformation requires sacrifice. It requires that you kill off the version of you that was built on weakness so you can build a version built on strength. A warrior mindset isn't about aggression toward the world. It's about aggression toward your old limitations. It's about recognizing that every time you take the easy path, you're choosing to remain the man you no longer want to be. And once you understand that fully, once you feel the weight of that truth, you realize that you have no choice but to become ruthless with your past self. Because mercy toward your weaknesses is the fastest way to lose everything you're trying to build. When you look back at everything we've walked through, it becomes clear that the path to becoming a stronger, sharper, more unshakable man is not built on motivation alone. It is built on choices. Choices made in silence. Choices made when no one is watching. Choices made in the moments where weakness feels easier and strength feels impossible. This entire journey from confronting your softness to building discipline to facing adversity head on to eliminating excuses to killing off your old self was never about becoming someone extraordinary in the eyes of the world. It was about becoming someone undeniable in your own eyes. You have been shown that power does not come from comfort. Growth does not come from wishing. Confidence does not come from pretending. It comes from living every day with a mindset that refuses to bend, refuses to break, refuses to surrender to the weaker version of you that has held you back for far too long. And if you truly absorb everything here, you realize that strength is not a gift, it is a decision. A decision you must keep making every hour, every day, every time life pushes you. The warrior mindset you're building is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is forged in the darkness, in the discipline no one applauds, in the consistency no one sees, in the commitment no one understands until the results become impossible to ignore. You are not supposed to wait for the right moment. You are supposed to create the moment. You are not supposed to hope for strength. You are supposed to command it through your actions. Every challenge, every setback, every moment that tests you is a doorway to a stronger version of yourself, but only if you walk through it instead of running back to comfort. Understand something powerful. The world rewards men who refuse to be controlled by fear, laziness, or doubt. The world moves aside for the man who shows up with clarity, force, and unbreakable intent. And if you choose to live as that man, there is nothing, absolutely nothing that can stop you. Not circumstances, not pressure, not failure, not the opinions of others. Because a warrior is not defined by what he faces. He is defined by what he refuses to become. And from this point forward, you have the knowledge, the mindset, and the fire to ensure that weakness is not the story you live, but the story you overcame.